Yep. We're talking about print today and how good it smells. Just joking. We're talking about automotive photography and my feature in Autostrada Magazine. Also, we're talking about settings, location, empty space, consistency of editing, and how important it is to have walkie-talkies. So I'm sure you want to stay and watch this whole thing. Let's do this. So for this whole issue, I actually used 2 pieces of gear, 3 if you count walkie-talkies. The first piece of gear was my camera body, and it's a Canon 5D Mark IV, and I paired it with a Sigma prime lens, a 35mm f1.4. And the walkie-talkies will be talked about later in this video, but those 2 pieces of gear, that is all I used for this whole photo shoot. So the car I was shooting for this photo shoot is a 1977, let me just make sure I get this right because I don't want to screw it up, sorry Mike. 1977 BMW 320, almost similar to like a 2002 style look. 4 lights in front, obviously you'll see it in the video, but it's blue, it's turboed, it's mean, and it is custom built, and this thing is fast as fuck. So let's get jumping right into it. On top of my GoPro, on top of my camera, first thing I do is set up the first scene or the first shots. And this location, I kind of wanted to give an industrial feel, but because the car is blue, I wanted to accent it or complement it with green or a greenery, or the outside being the environment shot. So this all tied in well with complementing the car.
Just here planning out some photos. We got the car, we got the bridge.
First thing I do is actually do some test shots of the location without the car in that spot, just to see composition, to see if it's going to shoot well, and to see where the sun is going to be placed. I focus mainly my subject where the sun is kind of coming into the haze, and this was set in the evening around 5:30 p.m. EST, and that's when it was about to break through the golden hour. I had probably an hour and a half to shoot this whole set. Now, if you're noticing in this photo shoot, I actually do a couple different things, and this is how I set my mind up for photo shoots for magazines. I'll shoot different angles with one setting of a shot. So the first shot will be top left with empty space, bottom left, empty space, center of the vehicle with empty space around it. Then I move to the top right and the bottom right. And why I'm doing this is because in a setting for a magazine shoot, I don't know what photo they're gonna love or what photo they're gonna use for the magazine. And now I can always pitch the magazine and say this is kind of what I want as the main focal shot. So for instance, for this shot, they actually used the first 5 to 10 photos that I actually took. And for this one, I went with the bottom left empty space, and the car or the focal is somewhat in the central middle, but opposite to the side that's empty. For this magazine in particular, Autostrada, they don't want any subjects or focal point in the gutter, and the gutter is the middle crease of the magazine. For instance, they lose detail in that section, or there's a bleeding section, they call it, where it's in the middle as well too, where images or objects bleed into the middle. So for instance, composition, they want most of the subjects far right, far left, but you can pick top or the bottom. So for instance, I put the subject on the right, and you can stretch the subject if you have enough empty space when you shoot super wide.
Walkie-talkies are the best shit ever.
So pro tip for gear, invest in a walkie-talkie. Doesn't matter what quality, as long as you can get kind of in the range of the 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer mark. Excuse me, coffee burp. Walkie-talkies are amazing, and they save on time, They save on also helping you direct from a far distance. So for this instance, Mike, the owner of the BMW, was in the car, and I don't want to run back and forth saying, okay, move the car slightly to the right, move the car slightly to the left, turn your tires a little bit more. Instead, instead of running back and forth, saves time, use your walkie-talkie and have a conversation with the owner of the vehicle. Even when it's running, some cars, you might not be able to even hear someone yelling out of the car if they're a race car, or for instance, this car was turboed. It could be very loud inside the cockpit. So walkie-talkies come in handy, and I would highly recommend it for any photo shoot with distance or an object far away to invest in them. And they're a great investment because they only need batteries or they're rechargeable, so they last a very long time. Now, as I'm setting up for the next location, I'm having Mike park his car on the side just to shut it off because it's potentially running and I don't want it to overheat or to overrun or waste this fuel. So in that time when I'm taking a break, I set up the car on the side of the road and do detail photos of it. And I will set up that shot and go completely wide open with my aperture. My lens can shoot at 1.4, and I'll shoot detail shots, really fine detail shots of the wheels, the accessories, the seat belts maybe, the radio, the steering wheel, the shifter, any accessories he has. So his hat made the issue, the emblems, the letters of the car because it says 320. I will shoot all those details while the car is sitting either in idle or completely off, and this gives myself some time to breathe and think of the next photos or what I'm going to do with the owner, so that it's an easy transition through all the photos and it makes sense in the storyline.
So I just ripped all these trees and leaves off here. The sun's right there. Put it on the ground so it's going to give a cool effect of Mike's car going by, and I'll show you guys when I finish.
Now for these next photos, I wanted to get a little creative and drag my shutter speed. If you don't know what dragging your shutter speed is, it basically means being able to hold your mirror open as wide open, or for mirrorless, I don't know, whatever they are, so that you get some motion or you get some motion blur in your photo. And during this shot, I kind of wanted to resemble like an old school shot I used to see where leaves are flying in the fall and the car's driving past and it just kicks up all these leaves. So I actually used leaves from the ground and some trees and kind of made this beautiful line with these leaves to showcase the car driving through this patch of leaves, and the leaves are kind of blurry and the car is going to be in focus for the main part. So pro tip, I typically have two locations in mind for a car photo shoot. One that is like the bridge where it shows industrial, and a second one where at the end of the photo shoot I found this beautiful kind of roadway that had a leading line going up. So it's sometimes the opposite effect, where this one was industrial with the bridge and the second one was more kind of landscape, back road, driving country, classic coolness to the car. I don't know how to describe it, but I typically have two, so that I have like a storyboard for each of the photos where it makes sense with telling the story in an actual article in a magazine. Now let's talk about editing. I am very much like a journalistic kind of photographer, especially using the prime lens. It kind of gives that effect. But in saying that, with my editing style, I like to keep it all consistent with the whole theme of the photo shoot. When I say consistency, I mean if the car is blue and you're shooting it during golden hour, that consistent blue should match all of the photos. It shouldn't be super dark in the first photo shoot and then lighten up. You should try balance, and that you can kind of brand that story if you're putting out in publication, or if you're not putting out publication. It should all make sense and look cohesive and match with the color of the car. A lot of big brands will come to you and say, hey, can you shoot my car? You don't want to necessarily miss the boat on having a car look red in person and then looking orange in your photos. Keep that consistency, use your white balance indicator, and make sure the color palette stays the same throughout, because it represents you as a as a storyteller, but also represents you as an editor and a photographer. Well, that's it. Video's done. That's it. That's all. I hope you guys liked it and learned a little bit from this video. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Like this video, show me some love. I will be producing more videos hopefully soon, and a lot more behind the scenes from locations and jobs or gigs like this. That's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Time to brew another coffee. Peace.